Hello everyone, Pete here, and a huge question that many of us have is, do AAA games perform better in this brand new and more optimized Xbox full screen experience? Let's blast through 5 AAA titles to find out, and I'm going to be really honest here that the results were pretty shocking. So I'm here on the Windows desktop, and for our first AAA game, let's launch the great Doom: The Dark Ages. We're in the game now, and it's important to note that for every single one of these tests, my Ally X is plugged in on 30 watts turbo mode. And here, where I'm not using the Xbox full screen experience, we're already getting a super nice mid-70s FPS, specifically around the 76 to 77 mark. I have done a best settings guide for this, which does explain why the FPS is much higher than on the normal default settings. Yes, and even in the slightly more open area of the game, the FPS does drop slightly into the mid-60s, specifically around 66 FPS, but it's still extremely playable with no noticeable lag, and I'd already be very happy to play through this, even without any optimizations that the Xbox full screen experience may bring. So I restarted my Ally X, and we're now in the optimized for gaming version of Windows full screen experience. Let's load up Doom. Again, as I say, to keep these tests fair, I'm also plugged in on 30 watt turbo mode with the exact same in-game settings. And in what is pretty shocking, whereas I was getting mid-70s FPS in this section before, here now in the Xbox full screen experience, for some reason it's dropped about 20 FPS to the mid-50s, which is insane. Like, I have no idea why this is. And if we take this section specifically heading into these laser beams, on the right is in the standard windows where, as I say, it's hitting the mid-70s FPS, and on the left is this new Xbox full screen experience where it's only managing 54 FPS. Wow! So with gaming in the normal windows taking a huge early win, let's see if the Xbox full screen experience can pull it back. And at 2 is a massively underrated Xbox Game Pass title, In the South of Midnight. With this being a pretty graphically intense game, we're hitting just over the 30 FPS mark, so around 33 and 34. And honestly guys, if you haven't played this game, then you really must do, as I think it got massively overlooked when it first got released. And in some of the tighter areas of the terrain, like climbing these steps here, does manage to climb into the 40s too. Okay, so we're here in the Xbox full screen experience, and we're in the same area of the game again to keep things as fair as possible. We're finally seeing some benefits of this new optimized mode. So we're now getting around 10 FPS more, so we're hitting around the low 40s. And the gameplay does obviously feel smoother as a result, which is nice. Climbing these steps here, it's sticking to around the low 40s, which is where the standard Windows rose to, so no jump in performance here. And side by side in this section along this fallen tree, the Xbox full screen experience on the left is getting around 5 FPS more than the standard Windows on the right. So I'd say that the full screen experience is the winner in South of Midnight. With the scores now at 1 apiece, let's now head into Game 3, which is the amazing Oblivion Remastered. So we're here in the standard windows in the open world area, heading up the twisty path, and we're already getting a super impressive mid-60s FPS, and sometimes even jumping into the 70s, due to the fact I've done an optimization guide on this right here on the channel, which makes it so much more enjoyable than on the default in-game settings. And a little bit higher up on the path as we look around, we're actually hitting the low 70 FPS, which on a gaming PC handheld really shows just how powerful the Ally X is with the Z1. The Z1 Extreme chip is. Okay, so we're now here on the full screen experience, remembering we're plugged in at 30 watts turbo to keep things fair. And we're heading up the same twisty path. We can see that we're hitting the mid-60s FPS as well, so it's actually very similar to playing in standard Windows with no noticeable gains here. And again, in the same area here at the top of the path when we look around, it's still in that low 70s FPS exactly as it was back in the standard Windows. So performance-wise, it seems very even in Oblivion Remastered. I'm putting them both side by side here on the bridge heading towards this huge building. We can see that the full screen experience on the left and standard Windows on the right, there really isn't a whole lot in it, to be honest. The FPS is fluctuating quite a bit too, which doesn't make things any easier as well. And heading back down the path side by side, they're both hitting pretty much the same mid-60s, so I'd say it's a draw in this one. So the scores are 2-2 as we head into our 4th game, which is the amazing Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. So we're here in the standard windows on a discovery activity heading towards Bora Bora, and right at the start heading over the ocean in the mid-30s FPS. I've said before in vids, and I'll say it again, that if you would have told me a game like this was even possible on a handheld way back in the 90s when I had my Game Gear, then I just would not have believed you and laughed at you. I would have thought that there is no way that this is possible. And as we start to head over some terrain, we're still managing around 35 FPS, which is super impressive. I just want to say as well that this game is super relaxing. I know that many of us have a lot of stress and pressures in our lives, and playing this really is a fantastic way to chill out. And I'm pretty surprised it didn't get more of a mention in a recent community poll here on the channel, asking what games chill you out the most, where Zelda came top at 42%. Talking about community polls, a huge thanks for voting yesterday, where a whopping 70% of you great viewers only want background music in the intro and outro only. I really do massively appreciate all of your feedback. Okay, back to it and loading it up in the full screen experience. This new compatibility splash screen tells us it's not officially optimized for handhelds yet, which is interesting. And flying over the same part of the ocean, while there's not a massive difference, we are actually getting a couple of FPS more here in the full screen experience. So we're now hitting 40 FPS, which is so great. I'm starting to fly over some terrain now. The FPS is still holding up really well. Again, we're getting around 4 FPS more than the standard Windows at around 39 FPS. I'm putting them side by side over pretty heavy terrain, which really puts the Z1 Extreme chip to the test. Yeah, it's about even with both the full screen experience on the left and the standard Windows on the right hovering around that 30 FPS mark. But with the full screen experience performing slightly better in the first half, let's put a win for that, which now makes the scores 3 for Xbox full screen and 2 for standard Windows. And at 5 is what many of us consider one of the games of the year in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And let's see if the Xbox full screen experience can win here to make it 4-2, or will the standard Windows win and make it a very even 3-3. So a lot is resting on this final test. So we're here on the standard Windows, and even using my best settings guide here on the channel, there are sections like this humongous open world tabletop-like area, which is incredibly demanding on our Ally X, where it dips right down to hit the mid-20s. And adding the Xbox full screen experience on the right here, it is actually performing slightly better in this area, getting around 4 FPS more, so being in the low 30s that the standard Windows does struggle to hit most of the time. Focusing back on the standard Windows in this beautiful underwater type section, seriously, this is one of the best looking games we can play right now on our Allies. We're around the low 30s in this particular section, namely around 31 to 32 FPS. By the way, on the Xbox full screen compatibility chart, it tells us that Clair Obscur is actually mostly compatible with the Ally. And right here in the full screen experience, in the same area, it's pretty much exactly the same as it is on the standard Windows at around 31 to 32 FPS. I'm putting them side by side with the Xbox full screen on the left. There really isn't much in it at all in this particular area, with both being around the low 30s. Although with the Xbox full screen experience performing slightly better in the open world, then this just about gets the win. So there we have it. In my test, the Xbox full screen experience just about ekes out the win to make it 4 and just 2 for gaming on the standard Windows. So I really do think it may be worth you trying out this new Xbox full screen experience, and my ultimate guide for it is linked below. Although what was pretty shocking for me was that I did expect games to perform better in the full screen experience than it actually did. And one game in particular for me, which was Doom the Dark Ages, performed noticeably worse for some reason. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you found games perform better or worse in this new full screen experience? Let us all know below in the comments. And as a thank you for watching this far, I'd love to share this awesome quote. Positive thinking is like a muscle that gets stronger with use. Stay positive. Yeah, it's very easy to get discouraged and negative through tough times, but the more we can stay positive consistently, then the easier that it will be for us. So stay encouraged today, guys. And as an extra bonus treat for staying right to the end, here's our gorgeous rescue cat, and her name is Pancake. To find out the top 10 tips for the Xbox full screen experience, click on the top right, or to install using my ultimate guide, click the bottom right. As always, be sure to like if you found this helpful, subscribe if you're new here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.